Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Glenn.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are two reasonable guys. So today, now this topic has been covered by some websites and some articles on the web, but I think we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into it, and I think we've got some points to make that haven't been made.
Yeah.
But the concept here is basically, and me and Kevin are both, I think, huge fans. Mm-hmm. Huge fans? Moderate fans?
Since I read the books, I've become a bigger fan.
Right. And I have done that too. All right. So this is good to say. I have also read all of the books. So we both have read all of the books and we have seen all of the films. And what are we talking about? Because we haven't even said it yet. We're talking about
the mystery.
Harry Potter. Oh, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And what are we going to be talking about? We're going to talk about how the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is actually a fucking nightmare place.
Yes.
You don't want to live there.
100%.
Yeah, Hagrid pulls him into this wonderful life away from his semi-threatening foster parents.
And that's the thing. He was already in the shit. So I guess he figured, well, how much worse could it get?
But his life was 350,000 times more safe and happy living in the cupboard under the stairs than it is 3 minutes in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And before anybody gets up our asses about saying, well, Voldemort was coming back and he's trying to kill everybody, and no. Everything we're going to cover here in this podcast has nothing to do with the Voldemort plotline. It has everything to do with the standard universe.
Day to day. Like a regular jaunt through the Wizarding World.
Yeah, the stuff that would just exist in this world, whether Voldemort existed or not.
I'd be willing to talk about this without even mentioning his name again, because you could do that. You don't even have to add that layer of horrible. There's enough crap that can completely murder your face without even talking about Voldemort, in my opinion.
Let's just dig into it. The first, I guess, area I'd like to talk about is just, in general, Hogwarts School of Wizardry and witchcraft.
It's a good starting point. I mean, we could branch out from here, but that's sure. Let's do it.
Cool. So the first thing I want to talk about are the staircases. The staircases that are always moving around. First of all, why? Why does a building need staircases that move around? A lot of fans are going to say, no, the staircases, they know what class you're going to, and then they move in the direction. No, that is not true.
I wish that was true.
I did a little research, and this is a direct quote from the book. Quote, this is talking about the staircases. Some that led somewhere different on a Friday. Some with a vanishing step halfway up. You had to remember to jump. Remember to jump a step? Or what? Break your leg? Fall and plunge to your death?
Either fall forever, or fall to your eventual death. It's great, right? Like that's what I want when I go to school. I want to have to worry about falling to my death.
So was Hogwarts built by some asshole architect who just wanted to injure people? Is that what's going on here?
I'm gonna give two answers for a lot of these rhetorical questions. One, I feel like it adds to the mystique of an old castle that is an epicenter of possibly conflicting and vast magical history, right? So you have like weird shit like staircases that move randomly, doors that go nowhere, all sorts of like the weird plot flavor that gets introduced anywhere in Hogwarts, right? However,
you're getting very mystical. It's almost like you're saying...
This is how I enjoy shit. This is like my approach, is that if you do a good enough job of laying the foundation on any element of any story, I feel like you just apply a little bit of creativity, and you could like fill in the blanks and shit that makes sense, that make the story more enjoyable for you. You know what I mean? So I do that a lot, especially in fantasy and definitely in these movies. Because they, even reading the books, they don't tell you absolutely everything. They tell you a lot more in the books, obviously, but I feel like sometimes you just need to fill in the blanks with mystical bullshit. It's like a putty. Mystical bullshit putty.
Listen, I'm not going to argue with the rationale for, writing a half a paragraph on funny staircases in a book that make kids say, "Oh, isn't that fun?" Yeah. But in the reality of it, there's no way in hell this place would ever pass the Wizards with Disabilities Act compliance standards.
I think
you can't have moving staircases.
I don't think they give a shit about compliance. I think
it's the opposite of accessibility.
I think the compliance officer of Hogwarts, the second day he was there, he forgot to jump and he fell to his death.
Exactly.
End of magical compliance.
And I can picture a scene where some student goes up to Miss McGonagall, is there a wheelchair ramp I can use? And she's like, "Why, yes, it's over there. But be careful. The ramp occasionally likes to spit razor blades in your eyes."
or just gives that Maggie Smith sneer, and you know what I mean? Just the get the fuck out of my face look. I kind of like yours better because you definitely have a fountain that spits razor blades instead of water, right? Shit like that. No, that was because of Sharpton the Magnificent or some old school wizard from hundreds of years ago, who, by the way, is now trapped in an immortal hell in one of those paintings.
Of course. But that's what I'm thinking. The whole moving staircase and all this wacky stuff that's dangerous, and I feel like Dumbledore's Patronus better take the form of an experienced defense attorney, because expecto a lawsuit. It's why?
But in that also, I don't think there's any over litigiousness of the Wizarding World, right? Because if there were, half the movies would be about pending trials.
No, there's no lawsuits because if you disagree with someone, you just point your wand at them and they explode.
You point your portable, near infinite source of power at them.
Exactly, that was another point I wanted to make, that basically at age 10, every breathing human being in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter
has a magical AK-47.
Is given a wand.
Yeah.
And it's literally the most dangerous thing in the world. It would be imagine if in our world at age 10, every kid was given a Glock. If you live in Texas, you don't have to imagine this, but for everybody else,
there would be far less 10-year-olds, I'll tell you that much, because there would be kids doing some weirdly awful shit to one another and probably to themselves. And I'm not talking his hair is now 3 different shades of blue. No. He doesn't have a face anymore. Or he turned himself into that, the fucking rat. What was that thing that Ron did? He tried to polymorph a rat into a cup, and he got both of them in some horrible living cup with a tail like that. If you really want to dive into just that instance, that's a horrifying eldritch type of.
Yeah, you've touched on another point, which is basically you can, as you're learning how to use your wand, you could do things like create half cup, half rat creatures that are basically begging to be killed, like the Ripley clones in that fourth Alien movie.
Yeah.
Because you've created some ridiculous abomination. It's just, like the transporter accident people in Star Trek The Motion Picture. I'm really digging deep into geekdom for analogies here.
That was horrifying. Because it was a horrible, inhuman scream and then nothing. That was straight up scary.
I love that scene because they're like, "Did you get him?" And they're like, "What we got didn't live long, fortunately."
Just it's so much worse, but so much better, right? That's like that icing on the nightmare cake.
Exactly. Yeah. But this is the world of Harry Potter, where everyone's handed a little item,
right?
And again, a 10-year-old gets it. And here's the thing: as soon as the kid, if it's a male kid, hits puberty, you know where he's going to use the Engorgo spell on.
Dude, that's the most tame thing that he can do. The most tame thing.
Exactly.
And that's going to bring me to a rather, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a huge, huge problem. Is the fact that there is nowhere to hide. There's no privacy, and
yes,
every hour is rape o'clock.
Yes.
Every single hour. Hell, every single minute.
Yeah, when you talk about privacy, one of the first things I think of is the Marauders map. right?
Yeah.
Now, yes, there was only one Marauders map, but I think 4 Hogwarts students made it. Like, if you don't know what the Marauders map is, it's basically a map of Hogwarts that shows you where anyone is at any time on the map. So it's 100% Big Brother, Patriot Act, heavy-duty stuff. So if the 4 students can make a Marauders map of Hogwarts, then experienced wizards must have similar items for basically every place in the entire wizarding world.
Right. Which I think they do, because in Prisoner of Azkaban, when Dobby casts the floating charm, or whatever the hell he did to what's his face's sister, right? And like within minutes, Harry gets a notification saying, "Hey, by the way, we know what you did. We know that magic was cast illegally." It's like, how did you know that? And I know there's a part of the book that explains this, but still, that's a level of surveillance that goes beyond the wizarding world and into the I don't want to say Muggle world, because that's the human world, right?
And that happened with Harry too. There was many times where Harry used a spell when he was at home and not at Hogwarts, and then everybody knew about it, and he was going to get in trouble.
So you're not even at school, right? The semester didn't even start yet. You like magically scuff somebody's Pumas, and all of a sudden, the fucking Inquisition is knocking on your front door. Like, oh my god! You want to talk about surveillance? That's a whole new level of surveillance. That's even worse. That's even worse than the Marauders map, which is terrifying in itself.
Yeah, I guess everybody has some sort of whack, like you said, some whack ass charm on them that just like is monitoring them. You know, like GPS on their
like a
cell phone.
magical microchip, right? But instead of your cell phone, it's in you.
Exactly.
It's just
nothing
in
you can do.
Yeah.
Like at least you can turn, right? You can turn, your cell phone off or leave it at home.
You could even turn the map. You could even turn the Marauders map off.
Right.
Right. It just if I remember correctly, it just looks like a regular piece of parchment or whatnot.
Oh yeah, they can. Yeah, they cast a spell. They say mischief managed, and it just becomes a piece of parchment.
Yeah.
So it's even more. Yeah. And then again, the other thing that's the biggest invasion of privacy is that Polyjuice Potion.
Oh man!
That anybody drinks and they will look and sound like anybody else. So now, again, you talk about rape o'clock. You get a strand of hair at work from, obviously, when working at the Ministry of Magic, because 93% of all wizards work there.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Either that, or you run a shop on Diagon Alley. That's basically the only two things you do.
You run like a butterbeer kiosk,
right?
In like a cart in Diagon Alley.
Or I guess you're a professional, Quidditch player.
Sure.
So yeah, you get the strand of hair from someone, you make a potion, you become them, you go home, you have relations with their significant other, and nobody knows anything different.
Yep. Move on.
Cool. This is awesome.
Yep. Polyjuice.
Yeah.
Way to be.
Yeah. And that's the other, and then you've got this is the freakiest combination. So you've got love potions,
readily available, by the way.
Again, a lot of the things that we're talking about here, I think all of these things, the kids at school make them or have access to them. So if kids at school who are being watched by everybody can do these things, then anybody can do these things. So you make a love potion. You make somebody drink a love potion, they fall in love with you. You get a little estranged, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
And then you hit them with the Obliviate, which is the memory charm, and get rid of their whole memory of the incident. Lather, rinse, repeat. You could be, Johnny rapes a lot in this universe, never get caught.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby would love living in the wizarding world of Harry Potter.
It's the Cos dimension, right? He would love to be a wizard at Hogwarts. Oh.
Professor Cosby, I don't remember class yesterday.
What
did we learn?
No, because I was busy having a bacon burger dog. Because you have to learn the spell to use by the god. It's got all the elements of what he was accused and what's the word I'm looking for?
He went to jail. Convicted. Convicted is the word you're looking for.
Everything, right.
Any universe that Bill Cosby would be thrilled to live in, there's probably major problems with the structure of that universe.
So this clearly fails the Cosby test.
Or passes it, depending on what side of it you're looking at.
Depending on who's asking, right?
All right, we barely scratched the surface.
Absolutely, but just take that formula into consideration. You pull together different all-encompassing things like a love potion and a charm that makes you forget, and even what about what was the name of the curse that allows you to control actions?
Oh,
like
that one
control,
is called
the Imperius Curse, right? Believe so. Cruciatus was the torture spell, which is, and that's tame, right?
Yeah.
When you have an ability that you can cause somebody else almost limitless amounts of suffering, physical suffering, and that's tame, you know that you're in fucking nightmare dimension.
But then there's these, right? We were talking about spells that horrible rapists would use. There's a spell called Incarcerus, or Incarcerus, and that spell ties somebody up with ropes. And then there's Petrificus Totalis, which renders the target completely immobile.
Right.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
You're doing what you... Oh, God, you're going full Cosby right now. Drink and all. He doesn't even need the drink. Basically just needs his fucking roofie wand. His wand made out of Jell-O pudding.
Oh, and it was the Imperio Curse that makes a target obey.
Imperio, sorry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then another thing about privacy. All the paintings are alive. They're all watching you. And they can communicate with others. Where you are, what you're doing. They walk from one painting in one house, they go to another painting, and
it's almost like a painting dimension, right?
It's like a section 31 of painting.
That's not even the, in my opinion, that's not even the worst part. Is like, so if somebody paints a picture of somebody, right? And I'm assuming that picture has that person's memories and ability, limited amount of their abilities. Like maybe they know how to sing, or they know how to write, like stuff like that.
Yeah, they explained that the person in the painting isn't the actual person,
okay,
but the person in the painting, yes, will act and speak and give advice and talk exactly like the person that was rendered in the painting.
So are these people alive in this like canvas dimension?
I don't think they are. I think they're just it's like the holodeck. It's like
an AI. Okay, that's slightly less horrible.
Yeah, it's not. At least it's not trapping the dead people in the paint. But even then, it's like I remember in the first one, Harry opens up a chocolate frog and he gets Dumbledore, and then he looks at the card and the picture of Dumbledore is not there. And then Ron's like, well, you don't expect him to hang around all day. What the fuck does a picture of Dumbledore on a card have to do? What is he doing?
Dude, he's got shit to do in the painting dimension. You don't know.
He's helping people with their rape and assault, apparently, I think.
He's the lookout for fucking Slytherin's mascot, Bill Cosby. Master Cosby.
Cosby is slithering in this universe, that is for sure.
He's look at the lower half of a snake. Got those little snake eyes.
It's awful.
Slither me this wall.
The only thing more terrifying than what you just described is Leonard Part 6.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around introducing Leonard Part 6 to the Wizarding World. Maybe it could just exist in one of those paintings.
No.
I don't think
Let's not make it any more horrible.
You're right.
Please.
It would destroy the painting dimension.
Yeah.
I think it would.
So here's the other thing about... There's a couple other things about Hogwarts that are terrifying. First of all, they have this whomping willow tree that's on campus. Anything that comes near it, it literally just bludgeons to death. So that's fun. That's a good thing to have on a school campus.
Would you have on the main lawn of your institution of education, would you have a chained up bull that's always angry? Because that's kind of what the willow is like. It can't move. It's got like a murder radius, right? So I mean, once you're out of there, you're kind of safe, I guess. But if you're in there, you got major problems of the whomping kind.
Of the whomping, exactly. And my favorite thing about the Whomping Willow is there's a secret knot that if you push it, it opens up a passageway to the Shrieking Shack in Hogsmeade, which is the most haunted house in the world and is also terrifyingly dangerous. So that's one way that they said, well, what can make a tree that murders people
even worse,
more dangerous? Let's
Right.
put a secret passageway to the house that's the most murderous. And then what makes this even better is we find out that there is this passageway because Remus Lupin uses it every month to get away from the school,
Right.
because he's a werewolf. So this is another thing. Every single one of these Defense of the Dark Arts teachers is the shittiest pick for a teacher. As nice as Remus Lupin is, he is a nice person. He helps Harry a lot. He's a really wonderful mentor, and he's a very sweet guy. But every 30 days, he turns into a murder machine, and you decide that this is a great person to put around kids. Because, he'll figure it out every 30 days. He won't murder kids. He's got it covered. The other Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher we had was Gilderoy Lockhart, if you remember. He took the position in Chamber of Secrets.
He's like half a rapist, right? He doesn't actually do the sexual assault part, but he pretty much does everything else.
Well, he's a mind rape. His whole spiel is go hang out with great wizards who are doing incredible things.
Right.
Let them do incredible things. Then do the Obliviate charm on them so that they forget that they did those awesome things, and then I'll take credit for those awesome things.
He sounds like an impressive piece of shit right there.
But Dumbledore hires him.
Yeah.
So this means one of two things. Dumbledore is so stupid he doesn't know that Lockhart is a complete sham. Or he knows it, and it's like, that's fine.
I've long held that Dumbledore is actually a sociopath.
He really is.
Because I honestly think all the like you said, all the bad picks for the Defense Against the Dark Arts position, I think we're done with purpose. Right? They were like chess pieces.
Just to mess with people's shit.
Or just like see what'll happen. He's like running a science experiment, and all the mazes Hogwarts and everybody there, teacher and student alike, are his rats.
And here's a great piece of evidence for that. Sorcerer's Stone, everybody files into the Great Hall. Dumbledore makes his speech. He basically leads off the speech with the third floor corridor is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. He says this to new students. He basically tells them, if you go to the third floor corridor on the right side of the school, you will die a very painful death. And the funny thing is the way he phrases it, you don't know whether or not if you go there, something is there that will kill you.
Or he's going to do it himself.
Or he's just going to do it. Like maybe he's keeping his wizard porn collection somewhere up there and he just doesn't want the kids to find it. So you'll get a painful death if you go in there. And then he also tells people to avoid the Forbidden Forest as well, because it's also extremely dangerous.
Well, I don't know about you, but imagine you being 10 years old in a wizard school and you're told don't go somewhere. The first place I'm going to go is the third floor corridor, and the second place I'm going to go is the Forbidden Forest.
And that's the thing, with all the magic they have in this universe, there's nothing they can do to keep kids from wandering into that corridor. There's just nothing they can do. They're going in there.
I mean, that's this plot again, right? I feel like if this were this is going to sound really stupid, but if this were real, there would definitely be something along the lines of the spell that protects Hogwarts, right? Because I know people think it's just like an old castle or something. They have no interest in going anywhere near there. They have to be able to do something like that. It's just not a thing because they have to move the plot along. They need to have these kids go there so they could write a chapter about it and have it integrated into the overall story.
Yeah, I guess that's just the painful truth. You create a world with this extremely powerful magic that can basically do anything.
Right.
But then you need to create situations in which people can still do stuff that they shouldn't be able to do because of magic, but they still can do it. So it's definitely a conundrum to be able to write a story like this.
Well, I think the beauty part of the world as a whole is there's a balance that's trying to be upheld, right? Because you have the regular world and all of its bullshit, but then you have this wizarding world, which the movies and the books do a great job of painting it as a world of wonder, right? There's like this sugar-coated dust on everything. But something that they almost outright never say is that this world and the power that governs it is very, very dangerous.
But also, nobody really seems to care, and nobody really tries to do anything to make it less dangerous.
I think there's no point, right? Like, you just have to, like, it's everywhere around you, and if you're going to survive as a magic user in this world, you have to learn one way or the other that it is very dangerous to exist. Especially swimming in these waters, as an adolescent going through your formative years, charged with emotions and hormones, growing and learning. It's going to be very, very, very difficult, and it's probably not going to get any easier. And that's part of the point. Like, no one ever pulls aside Team Harry or Team anybody and lays it out for them, gives them like the real talk. Like, listen, everything in this world can kill you. See that plant? It can fuck you up. It's as simple as that. They just have to figure it out for themselves along the way. And some people try and get like turned and get murdered, or get turned into a statue or a flower, or get eaten by a giant spider. Shit like that.
Yeah, but you're adding to the psychopathy of the universe, because it's like, guess what, Harry? You're a wizard. And then he's like, I am? And then they bring him into this world, and they show him all of this horrible stuff that's around him. And I guess anybody who's introduced to the world is like, yes, this is horrible, and there are so many more things here that can kill me. But I have power, so I will stay in this universe so that I can become powerful. Like, it's almost like a whole world populated by psychopaths, because any real rational human being would go, I'm going back to live under the cupboard under the stairs. It's just a hell of a lot safer. I'm going to become a dentist. I don't want to be an auror or whatever, And here's the other thing I was going to say before about the Forbidden Forest. And because you said the world is just dangerous and you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So in the Forbidden Forest that's near Hogwarts, we have werewolves, we have thestrals, we have hippogriffs, we have blood-sucking bugbears, we have forest trolls. Okay. And there's also unicorns, and they're nice.
Are they?
So, yes.
I don't know. Most things in this world have kind of like a dark twist to them. Actually, unicorns probably aren't. Unicorns are probably fine.
We've got to make the assumption. But here's the thing. So, okay, let's just assume that those things live in the forest because that's what lives in the magical forest, and the people have no control over that. So I did a little research, and it turns out that the three-headed dog, Fluffy, after they didn't need him to guard the Sorcerer's Stone anymore, they released that three-headed dog into the forest. So they literally added to the dangers. It gets better, though. So there are these things called blast-ended scroots that were inside the maze in Goblet of Fire during the Tri-Wizard Tournament, which is another nightmare we'll get into. So the blast-ended scroots are manticore scorpion hybrids, which were bred by Hagrid. And after they were used in the maze in the Tri-Wizard Tournament, guess where they were released?
Mastic Beach.
No, into the Forbidden Forest. So Hagrid basically creates a nightmarish beast from two nightmare beasts. They use him in a tournament that kids are in, because it's fun. And then afterwards, spoiler alert, when one kid dies, they say, oh, what are we going to do with these blast-ended scroots? Oh, we should probably murder them to make sure. No, just put them in the forest. It's fine. Just in the forest. Just put them in there.
So is that, and you can't even say it's because it's a sanctity of life, because why are you having this tournament where children can and have died before, right? So what's the method to the madness?
And it wasn't like the tournament wasn't that dangerous. They have to take a creature that was bred specifically by Hagrid to be awful and use it in this tournament. They didn't have enough nightmares in this tournament that, which again, this is another reason that I don't. So they do the tournament, right? They have the Triwizard Cup. Anybody wants to enter, write your name on a piece of parchment, throw it in the cup, and, maybe you'll get picked, blah, blah, blah. If you're under a certain age, you can't put your name in the cup. And they even show a scene where the twins try to put their name in the cup, and it goes horribly. They can't do it. So Barty Crouch, under the Polyjuice guise of Mad-Eye Moody, Barty Crouch Jr., casts some kind of spell, I guess, on the piece of paper or on the Triwizard Cup. It gets Potter's name in the cup. Then when it pops out, and they're all surprised because he's underage, and how could he possibly get his name in the cup? Basically, Barty Crouch Sr., who I think is the Minister of Magic at the time, is like, well, the cup, it's a binding magical contract. I mean, Harry, he's got to be in it, which makes no sense because they already said anybody under this age should not be in it.
Well, that's obviously bullshit.
So somebody obviously messed with something illegally to get his name in the cup. That should be enough for them to be like, all right, he doesn't have to compete. And it makes no sense to me. Think about this. This inanimate object has all the hand in the relationship of the wizarding world. So it's almost like a wizard could get caught in a menage a trois with two house elves and a centaur, and he could just say, but honey, the enchanted cheese grater told me to do it.
Magically binding contract.
I'm not going to argue with the housewares. The cheese grater wanted me to unsanctify our marriage. And then she'd be like, yeah, you're right. The magic cheese grater. What are you going to do?
I'm sure stranger things have happened. Like, I'm surprised that doesn't happen every day. There can't be a litigious society because it wouldn't work. On
a side note of not giving a crap about putting children's lives in danger, the Care of Magical Creatures class at Hogwarts. Well, first of all, most of the magical creatures that they're introduced to in this class are horribly dangerous and deadly. But the person in charge of the Care of the Magical Creatures class is Hagrid, is one of the most forgetful, incompetent, clueless sons of bitches in the entire magical world. And the only reason why he's even at Hogwarts, he was a student, he went to school, he learned magic.
Third year, I believe.
He was obviously so incompetent that there was no way for him to get a real job in the wizarding world. Dumbledore basically lets him stay on the grounds. Kind of like the way like Robin Williams in Fisher King, like that guy lets him like live in his basement because he's
Wow.
like, I know this guy can't make it in the real world and I feel bad, so he could just kind of stay here. So that's who Hagrid is in this universe. Again, we all know he's a sweetie, he's a nice guy, but he's kind of a schmuck on wheels. He's not really good at anything, and they go, let him be around children by himself when there are deadly creatures around. Nothing's ever going to go wrong.
I'm still reeling from the Fisher King reference. I wasn't expecting that.
It was a good one, right?
It was a good one. I don't agree with you about Hagrid. From what I remember, he was a third-year student at Hogwarts, and he got screwed over and framed. And if memory serves, I think Dumbledore kind of knew that, so he always had kind of a soft spot for him because he knew that Hagrid wasn't a murderer.
We get that, but you could literally go through every Harry Potter movie and make a supercut of every time Hagrid just fucks up, and I'm not talking about because like he's in some really difficult, challenging task and he messes up. Like he can't keep secrets, his mouth runs off.
That's true.
He doesn't pay attention to stuff. I'm like putting Hagrid in charge of the Care of Magical Creatures class is like putting Heinrich Himmler in charge of the Home Depot shower department. Something is going to go wrong.
That's dark. It's dark as fuck. Wow.
It's not a smart... I know. I'm sorry. I got to bring it there. All right, it's like asking Paula Abdul to judge a singing competition.
Oof.
Oh, wait, they actually did that.
Yeah, totally.
American Idol did that. They made that error.
First the Fisher King reference, now like the odd Paula Abdul shade. You're off the chain tonight. Shit.
Just wait, I'm gonna make some other obscure television or music or film reference. I just want like one of our 11 fans to be like, dude, he mentioned Paula Abdul. I like her. I like Straight Up Now Tell Me. I'm going to listen to this podcast next week. Nah, it's not going to happen.
I don't think so. I don't know. I think Hagrid's just so lovable. He's like a union guy with no union. You know what I mean? Which leads me to my next a small like sub point of the Wizarding World is I don't think there's that many people to choose from for employment. The workforce is probably extremely limited. And small by comparison, right?
But we've covered that there are literally no jobs in the Wizarding World. You either work for the Ministry, you work somehow in the Quidditch universe, or you have a shop on Diagon Alley.
You leave, right? You go to like another area, right, with another school. You go to France or wherever the fuck Durmstrang is Russia or something like that. I don't remember.
There's a huge online sort of wizarding community with a lot of resources, and they talk about the school. There's a couple of schools in the United States. There's some schools in Africa, in Asia. They kind of go into all of the other schools besides the 3 they covered in the films, that are in Europe.
Yeah.
So there is a broader universe, but again, it just doesn't seem like there's doctors and dentists and IT guys. Like there's just
you don't need them. That's like the weirdly cool thing is you don't need engineers, you don't really need doctors, right? Because you have like healing magic, right? You don't need there was one, I think it was Goblet of Fire. Like they basically destroyed a portion of the Dursleys' house, and then they just kind of like they just wizarded it away, right? They just fixed it, no problem, no contractor necessary. You don't need a dentist. They don't even know what dentists are. You don't need any of those things.
Again, I'm going to get deep here again. But when you create a society in which there's no consequences to negative action because you can cast a spell and just fix it, you are creating a society of lazy, unempathetic sociopaths.
I mean, yeah.
Right?
To circle back to, see reference on Dumbledore being a sociopath. A product of said society.
And again, we've seen it in our own society, and I don't have to name names. You could fill in the blanks with whatever famous asshole you could think of. But we see a lot when there are extremely wealthy people who never really had to work a day in their life or never really had to suffer the consequences of not having enough money to buy food or get medical. And I'm not trying to get political at all. But again, you could see when all of that is removed, you sort of lose the ability to be empathic and to understand the suffering because you live in a world where, oh, you're not hungry? I just wave my wand and there's a giant banquet in front of you. So you're going to become numb to the trials and tribulations of the average person who can't do that. It kind of makes sense that the Wizarding World wants no part of the Muggle world because if you think about it, the Muggles have to deal with so many problems that the magical world, they can't even comprehend those problems. I know we're getting deep, but
I mean, speaking of getting deep, not to actually you, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that. One of the exceptions to creating shit in the Harry Potter verse is you can't create food. I believe it's called Gamps or Gumps law or something like that. It's kind of like a Newtonian set of rules around like the elements that you could create, and like food is not one of them.
So basically, you're telling me for all those ridiculously gigantic banquets that they had in the Great Hall in Hogwarts, somebody cooked all that stuff? And the magicians are just sort of teleporting them there?
So I think the way it works with that is they're not goblins. What the hell are they called? Like Dobby. What are they, fairies? I forgot.
House elves. The slaves.
The slaves. The slaves cook that food, or at least some of it, and then the wizards use their magic to either teleport that food into the Great Hall or to amplify what's already there. It's like the law of conservation of energy, but instead of energy, it's is bangers and mash, right? The law of conservation of sausages. You can't create sausages out of nothing.
But if you could create 1 million sausages from one sausage, there's no food problem. And again, you just touched on the other thing. Slavery in the Harry Potter universe,
it's real,
is 100% acceptable. And not only is it acceptable, it's even more nefarious and disgusting than regular slavery is, because the house elves...
It's more of a slave economy than the American South was, right? You've got house elves in rich wizarding families, and you've also got them essentially running Hogwarts.
And it's even more cruel because whatever spell or charm is on these house elves, if they don't comply with their master's wishes, they have to do self-harm. Like hit themselves in the head, bang their head against the wall. Dobby actually once mentioned he ironed his own hands.
Man, I forgot about that. That's some real dark, fucked up shit. And it's glossed over. A lot of little things like that are glossed over, which is why I said before that this is just a fucked up universe and you just have to learn how to live in it. Like the Dobby doing self-harm, that scene where Dolores Umbridge gets dragged off into the fucking forest by centaurs.
Yeah, right.
And they reference it later. They all but say that she had a fucking train run on her by centaurs. They all but say it.
Right.
You know? And they just kind of like, they almost laugh it off. Well, not laugh, but it's treated with a levity that's scary, to say the least.
And here's another thing. It's a bit of a side note, but it's related. When J.K. Rowling was interviewed by someone...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember this.
You know what I'm talking about? So they're asking her about... they reference in the books and the films that in order to create a Horcrux and take a piece of your soul and put it into an object, some horrible things have to be done in order to do it.
Right.
And when they asked her to describe what kind of horrible things, she wouldn't do it. Because she was like, I really don't want to say what kind of things would have to be done. So she knows in her head. And so I have to assume it's like horrible torture and murder and rape and like just the worst kind of things.
Take the Wizarding World out of this for a second, right? So picture horrible ways to suffer and die without magic, right?
Aside from watching Leonard Part 6? Or does that count?
It counts, including watching Leonard Part 6.
Okay. I'm thinking of it.
Now introduce shit like we've been talking about.
Oh, now they've got
you got Cruciatus Curse. You've got abilities. You've got ways to control people's actions forcefully. You've got ways of causing them immeasurable suffering. You have ways of outright killing people. We're not going to use that because that's not horrible enough. Not for a Horcrux.
You've opened me up to a whole new world because I'm thinking of horrible things you can do to people in our world.
No, man, you got to go outside of the nightmare box.
Right, because it's limited. Because in our world there are horrible things you can do to people, but eventually they're going to die or fall unconscious. If you are in the magic world, you could cast some sort of horrible spell on somebody, and then you could cast a healing spell.
Yep.
And just repeat that ad infinitum for like about 8 years.
Or you could lock them in their head for what feels like you give them the Miles O'Brien treatment, right? What's 10 minutes of suffering here is actually 100 years of suffering inside their head. Like horrible shit, yeah, right?
Yeah, it makes torture and punishment, about 1,000 times more intolerable based on you're living in the magical universe. Oh man, we are.
So like that being said, can you and that crazy motherfucker did that 7 times?
Yeah, he did that 7 times. Look, we also know that the average wizard or witch isn't going to do a Horcrux thing because they're not supremely evil.
Yeah, and they might not even know about it, right? They made it a point saying that's like that. Not only is the practice like fucked up and forbidden, just the knowledge of such a thing is like, what are we even talking about here? And, and for good reason. You don't want that kind of weird, horrible shit anywhere, right?
Right.
Like education and lore is one thing, right? But like letting it be out in the open, especially in a school, young impressionable minds. I mean, that's how that whole thing started. Everything it's like the Wild West, right? But instead of cowboys and Indians, you have like rapey wizards and ways to infinitely suffer. But you also have a bottomless plate of sausages. I mean, I'm you got to balance it out. You know what I mean? It's the good. You got to take the good with the bad.
And you know what? And no wizard has ever seen Leonard Part 6. I'm sorry, I went back 3 times to that.
You really have like a hard on for this movie. I don't blame you because it is a sight. That movie is a sight to behold.
We'll do a whole podcast on that movie one day.
Oh God.
And then that will really be the end of the podcast.
I was to say we really hit the bottom if we're doing a whole podcast on Leonard Part 6. Ooh, boy.
Oh, no.
That being said, next week we'll be talking about Leonard Part 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, next week's episode is going to be me and Kevin. We're going to spitball a plot for Leonard Part 7.
Impossible. They did everything they could in Leonard Part 6.
They answered all those questions?
Or maybe Leonard Part 7 could be Bill Cosby Returns to Hogwarts.
No.
He would have an appropriate Wizarding World name, like Bilious. Or just Bilious Cosby, right? Let's keep it simple. Bilious. I don't know.
Bilious Cosby?
Listen, that's not the weirdest fucking name in that universe. My personal favorite is Kingsley Shacklebolt. That's got to be one of the best names in the entire series.
And here's first of all, and this has nothing to do, well, it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. And I've heard people talk about this. Basically, the whitewashing of the Harry Potter universe, right? I think there's like one black student at Hogwarts, and she's barely in it.
No, there's Pavarti, and I forgot her sister's name.
They're Indian.
They're Indian, right? Then there's the Cho, right? Cho Chang.
Again, we're not talking about Asian. We're talking about
Dean. I think Dean is he's black.
Great.
I believe.
We got he's the token.
I know they don't do a very good job of.
And then you have this wonderful heroic black wizard, who wears sort of like African kind of garb, and his last name is Shacklebolt. Like something that you would put on chains on a slave. You're
not wrong. I mean, it was like you couldn't even fucking do that right. Like you were onto something, and then you fucked it up. Yeah.
Now, the weird thing is, and me and the family, we went and we saw The Cursed Child, the Broadway show.
Oh, I did not. Was it good?
Which, in 2023, when Broadway reopens, I recommend you go see it. It kind of takes place almost right after the last film.
Right.
Harry Potter's old, he has kids, all that stuff. But in the play, the reason why I bring this up is in the play, Hermione, they cast Hermione, they have a black actress playing Hermione.
Okay.
And when J.K. Rowling found out about it, she actually said, "That's awesome. I kind of wish I did that in the books."
I remember this. Yeah.
Which, that would have been nice. It would have been nice if there was a little bit more diversity in the books, but, I can understand why an English person wouldn't, England's a pretty white, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be dead wrong.
I don't know, man. I think it's more diverse than either of us think it is. Again, I don't live there. I've only visited there once with you, so I don't really know.
And there was definitely, from my memory, and again, we didn't explore every square inch of the country, but we were in London, and I feel like there's a huge Indian population.
True.
But I'll be honest, I don't really think I saw a lot of, I was going to say African American, but you can't call them that in England. That would make no sense. Do English people call black people African English?
I have absolutely no idea.
I have no idea. I'm not trying to offend. I'm being actually curious. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So Yeah. So the other thing that I want to bring up, it's kind of an all-encompassing topic, is the quality of education that wizards receive, and the fact that there's the state of technology in the wizarding world. Technology kind of stopped at some point in this universe, partially because you don't need a cell phone there, right? It's almost like high levels of technology have been replaced by magic. So you're kind of locked in this like quasi-Luddite style society, which can exist perpetually because of their reliance on like the arcane forces of the universe. Like the sky's the limit on magic, right? Or everything, all roads lead to magic in general. Like there's no engineering, there's no biochemistry, there's no material science. Like you don't need any of that shit.
It's weird. I feel like the only technology they have at all is the train. They have the steam engine, and they were content. Why are the trains not just powered by magic?
I think they are, though. I think they are.
They just like the form of the train because
it
looks cool?
It's just a device that is inherently magical, but it functions as a mundane train would. I guess they just have a train it's more plot sauce, you know? Because if it didn't really matter, if they didn't want to have a scene of everyone on the cool train, like that cool quasi old-timey train, you could just have everyone step into a door or step into an area on the platform, and then they would just emerge in the Great Hall. You know, cut 20 minutes out of every movie.
It's true. The whole train trip, I guess, is just for like enhancing the experience of going to school,
right?
Because
exactly.
Nobody needs it. Because they could use the flu powder or the port key, and zippity bang, they could be at Hogwarts.
Exactly. Yeah. It's almost like it's like the Force, right? You could make it as convenient as you want for plot purposes.
And this was the other thing that really bugged me, talking about port keys and flu powder. Traveling by port key, this is a quote from the book, is said to feel like having a hook somewhere behind the navel pulling the traveler to their location.
Ooh.
And the sensation of traveling by port key is universally agreed to be uncomfortable, if not downright unpleasant, and can lead to nausea, giddiness, and worse.
And worse.
Right, so here is a technology. For those of you who may not know what a port key is, you take an inanimate object, you put a spell on it, and if you touch it, you're immediately transported
to like a fixed point, right?
It's a transporter from Star Trek. However, this transporter is uncomfortable, not fun.
It makes you
unpleasant. So this is the other thing about this universe, is they can create these things that do incredible things, but almost always they're a nightmare. They're not fun.
So this is where filling in the blanks can kick in. So maybe port key technology, so to speak, is in its infancy. Like maybe another 30 to 50 years, or even 100 years in the wizarding world, the energies and the spells and the rituals and whatnot that govern the creation and use of port keys, maybe they'll get honed and improved. So you know what I'm saying? So eventually, maybe when Harry Potter is a grandfather or a great grandfather, port key will be the bee's knees, man. You know, no more naval fucking vomiting or whatever the hell they said. You know?
Yeah, but look at this from our point of view. So let's just say air travel here was in its infancy, and whenever you flew on a plane, it was uncomfortably hot. You were shaken all over the cabin and sometimes slammed into the ceiling. It wouldn't be a mode of travel. In our universe, they go, it ain't ready yet. We got to wait until this is not a nightmare for people to be on it.
I don't know. Would you take, let's just say you wanted to fly from New York to London, right? And it's in the before time when what's the word I'm looking for? The aeronautic industry, the airline industry. You know what I'm saying? That industry, aerospace. Thank you. Is in its infancy, right? And all the flights, at best, are like you just described. Let's just say it takes 24 hours, right, to get from New York to London on a rickety ass ancient plane, right? I would rather do that than be on a ship for 2 weeks.
But we're not talking about a rickety-ass plane. We're talking about something that can lead to nausea, giddiness, and this just seems crazy. The flu powder, too, right? They say when traveling by flu powder, you need to speak clearly, take care to get out at the right rate, keep your elbows tucked in, shut your eyes, don't fidget, and don't panic. And then I looked up, I'm like, why do you need to keep your elbows tucked in? And it said that if you don't, they could slam into the other fireplace grates as you're going past. And going back to port keys, every time you see somebody use a port key, they kind of fall 13 feet from the sky and then land on the ground where they can easily sprain or break an ankle or a wrist.
Hey man, it's the cost of you essentially have you have an object in your pocket, right? That could take you almost anywhere. I want to say anywhere on the planet, right? If I could travel to Germany right now, right, by gently caressing my a fucking quarter in my pocket,
easy now,
and all I'd have to worry about is feeling queasy.
We're not talking about feeling queasy. I mean, maybe if you're an experienced port key traveler, it ain't that bad. But when Harry goes the first time, it's rough as shit. And he absolutely could have broken an ankle, a wrist, an arm. Because if I had told you, I can get you to Germany in 2 seconds, 10%, 15% chance you're going to break a bone. Or you could just go by plane and it's going to take 6 hours. You're telling me you're going to take the port key?
Breaking a bone, probably not. But if you when you get out, you're gonna be nauseous for a few hours. I'd probably take it. Because breaking a bone, it would defeat the purpose. It would ruin the experience, right? I'd be laid up for 6 weeks in Germany. Like, fuck that. I'll just get on a plane. But if it's gonna take me someplace where I need to go in a matter of seconds, great. Also, if it's an emergency. Right, I know there's a part in the book somewhere where he's getting chased by Death Eaters or Dark Wizards or fucking Vorpal Owls or something, and he port keys the fuck out of there. Right? I don't remember. It's been years. So that's so the technology is one thing, but what I said before about the quality of education, I feel like they don't learn basics of life. Like they don't learn critical thinking skills. You know what I mean? They don't even learn math.
No, they don't have to learn anything.
I think they talk about math as Hermione talks about a class called arithmancy or something like that. It's like the study, mystical numbers or some. I don't even think it's real. It might be some. I mean, of course it's not real, but I mean, I don't think it's based on any other fiction. You know what I'm saying? I think they just kind of threw. It's like a self-sealing stem bolt. It's kind of threw it out there. You know?
But again, now you're talking about how their world is different and weird, but it's not. That's not terrifying.
I mean, it's terrifying in the sense that you're not equipping people with skills that could help them live as human beings. You know what I'm saying? All right, I'll have another example. Why isn't there a sex ed class in Hogwarts?
Because it's very rapey. You cast the spell, you put the love potion,
okay,
you do
all right,
the Obliviate.
No, good point. Let's just say that the rape-centric activities that we've been describing with all the various horrible potions and charms and shit, right? What if that is the ad hoc replacement for a healthy sexual education? You're now breeding aggressively dangerous sexual predators, is what you're doing.
They don't need any help. The nature of this universe will breed sociopathic people doing sociopathic things.
I mean, we could sum up everything that I just said as this is like a magical Wild West. They just do shit. There's really no rhyme or reason.
But even in the Wild West, you know who's coming for you. You know who's calling you out to the street at high noon for a shootout. Here, you put an invisibility cloak on, you go into somebody's house, you do whatever you want, you cast the Obliviate charm, you do that. There's literally zero consequence.
You just gotta add that layer of magical sauce. It makes everything either much, much better or infinitely worse. or just randomizes everything, right? Like, yeah, I would consider this like the Wild West, but now that you have magic, everything is unpredictable. Like you said, you knew who was calling you out. You knew that if you went out into the wilderness, you were either going to fight like a mountain lion, right? You were gonna find, I don't know, maybe like an old cemetery or a burnt down church, or you might run into Native Americans, right?
Or you might find Clint Eastwood, a.k.a. Marty McFly, hiding his time machine in a cave.
You could.
There we go. 80s callback reference. I have another one.
And honestly, I think that would be tame, right? Finding a time machine in a cave. Then what could happen in the wizarding world? As fantastic as it is, and I would be the first person to sign up for anything if you told me that magic was a real thing. No hesitation. But going in detail about the type of world it would breed would give me pause.
Here's the thing. We uncovered, and we went deep down the rabbit hole, and we even discovered some things that I was actually surprised at. So you're basically saying that if this world existed, you would choose a life in this nightmare verse than our...
I don't know about a life, because it would render the skills that I've cultivated to survive almost useless, because there are no computers in the wizarding world.
Yeah, but you wouldn't need them. You just learn the spells.
That's true. I wouldn't need them, so I'd have to be an accomplished wizard, and apparently to do that, you have to survive. I'm going to say repeated sexual assault attempts, mind wipes, forbidden curses, being dragged into weird metaplots that could only result in your being turned into a statue, or being locked in the painting dimension. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
In order to succeed in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, you need to be able to resist all of the horrible temptations that magic gives to you, and be a moral, kind, empathetic person, and basically just not be a complete rapey dick. And then you've won.
That's not going to stop everyone else who fails to adhere by this moral compass that you've established, right? So, I mean, you might get broken by everyone else's dicketry, which is entirely possible.
Oh, it's oh my God. All right, I think we're done. I need to go take a shower or something.
Yeah.
I don't...
Go to church or something.
Exactly. I'm going to go read my Bible.
Yeah. Oh, all right, yeah. That was fun.
Yeah. That was fun in a weird... I didn't think it was going to get so dark.
I honestly hope everyone who's listening never watches those movies. In the same headspace again.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to our rants. Again, yep. I'm Glenn.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are two reasonable guys, and we're going to see you next time.
Sociopathic wizards. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.